Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Township West Orange Rent Leveling Board Workshop Meeting, which is scheduled today, February 9th, 2022 at 9 a.m. I'm going to read a statement of compliance. A notice of this meeting was given to the Township Clerk and posted on the Township Bulletin Board and the Township website calendar and sent to the West Orange Chronicle and Star Ledger. This meeting has been properly noticed to the public in accordance with Open Public Meeting Acts. No new matters will start after 10 a.m. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to do a quick roll call. Councilwoman Tammy Williams. Councilwoman Williams. I think she's going to be a little late. Anthony Campagna. He said he's not going to be here today. Welcome.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Pete. Tammy just sent a note. She didn't have a link, so I just resent it to her.
Okay. Okay.
She should be coming in a minute.
Okay. We are our newest member, Asmer Geber-Michael. How are you? Good morning.
Thank you. Morning.
Morning. Melinda, I see you're here.
Present.
Mira Myers.
Here.
Adolfo Rodriguez is not going to be absent today. Deirdre Poe-Saunders.
Here.
Okay. And Mr. Graziano is here as our guest today. And actually, not as our guest, he is our newly appointed Rent Leveling Board attorney. He was appointed through resolution last week to the town council. I think it was last week, 2 weeks ago. So welcome, Mr. Graziano.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Peter.
So this morning, the purpose of the final agenda for today, as requested by the committee last week, or the board members, was to discuss the Rent Leveling Board's roles and responsibilities and the Rent Leveling Board hearing procedures and the rules. Just to remind the general public that this is, while it's open to the public to sit in and listen, we will not be having a public session in this particular workshop. Those comments are reserved for our Rent Leveling Board meetings. However, if anybody does have a question in relation to this meeting, they can send it to me at my email at psmeraldo@westorange.org or contact me via phone 973-325-4107, and they can send the questions to me directly, and hopefully I can answer them for them. Okay. Quickly before we start, and it's not on the agenda, but I would like Mr. Graziano just to go over a little bit about himself. I asked him to review our ordinance and our procedures, which is he's going to talk about. He is going to make a couple comments about our missions from the board or from the council looking at the ordinance, but we're not going to sidetrack off of that. He's just going to make these recordings, these statements as things that we may want to talk about in the future, but it's not for the topic of subject of topic today. So Mr. Graziano, I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning, everyone. My name is Alex Graziano. Just a little bit about my background. I'm a partner in the law firm of Graziano and Campi, which is located here in Verona, from where I'm speaking to you. That firm was first founded in the year 2000. So we're in our 22nd year, my partner Kathleen McCormick Campi and I. We both are entering our 39th year of law practice as well. So for the past, since 2006, I should say, I have been the Rent Control Board attorney for the Township of Verona. And we have presided over many hearings like the one we're about to have tomorrow. And we just last year, in case you hadn't heard, just last year overhauled our rent control ordinance, which was in desperate need of revamping and updating and basically just tightening it up. So the ordinance we have, I worked on extensively with our Rent Control Board secretary and our township attorney, and I think it's a pretty good way of handling rent control matters. So I took a look at your ordinance, and as Peter said, the purpose of today's meeting is basically to prepare for tomorrow's hearing. But I do have some just very general comments about your ordinance, particularly in the area of the Rent Control Board administrator. Peter, as we know, was appointed by the mayor and council, or were you hired, Peter?
I was hired.
You were hired, but there isn't really any provision in your current ordinance that talks about the position of rent board administrator and what that person's responsibilities and duties are, et cetera, and what that person's powers and authorities are. That was one of the main changes we made to our ordinance last year, which was to create a position similar to what Peter is already doing and make that person the so-called day-to-day person for handling rent matters. Just the basic record keeping, filing, following up with landlords about, you didn't submit a rent roll. When can I expect to get your rent roll? Making, day-to-day decisions, and then anything contested or anything of a complex nature that's not administrative comes before the board. That I suggest to you is a good topic for another day. How to overhaul our ordinance to make it more to make it more like the way we're actually doing business. So with that, unless anybody else has any questions, I don't want to get into actual comments about the ordinance right now because that's beyond the scope of today's meeting. But I think we should make a point of either modifying or amending this ordinance, or maybe starting with a whole new ordinance as we did in Verona over the last 2 years. All right. Does anyone have any questions about either me or about anything else pertaining to my comments?
So if I could chime in, thank you, Mr. Graziano. First of all, I'm excited to have you on board, especially with your level of experience and expertise in rent leveling. So I'm honored and very happy to have you join us. I guess a concern of mine, my concern with the language that you use, the overhaul language, is that there are some aspects of the existing rent control ordinance that are really good. So I just want to keep that in mind, that I'm not sure that we want to completely overhaul the ordinance, but amend it is definitely something that I think that we should do. It's something that the board has been talking about for quite some time. In fact, we have a subcommittee that is focused on making said amendments to our rent control ordinance. But I just want to be careful with how we broach that, because again, there are some pretty beneficial elements of that ordinance that I don't think that we should do away with. Some things obviously do need amendment or amending. So that's the only thing that I wanted to say with respect to that.
I totally agree, Ms. Myers. There are some very good things in that ordinance, and like we did in Verona, we did import significant portions of the old ordinance into the new ordinance. We didn't just scrap everything and start from scratch. We kept what was working. We modified what wasn't working, and it was primarily a procedural overhaul of the ordinance.
Okay. With that said, let's go into our roles and responsibilities. So just to make sure we're all up to speed, last week in our previous workshop meeting, the concern is the fact that we have an application for tomorrow. I did forward all the documents to everybody. I believe that the applicant has fulfilled everything that he's supposed to be required to send to us. I sent it to you for your review. And as this is a workshop, we cannot discuss that particular case today, but you do have the document. So if the members of the board have questions, they can call me offline. We will talk about it. And if you didn't receive it, just please make sure, let me know, and I will resend it again, because I think we're having problems with our server with certain platforms. So I will address that for you. With that, the discussion last week was, one is how do we operate and who's actually going to be responsible to run the meeting tomorrow night. So Mr. Graziano, based on that, we don't have a chair or a vice chair or any other appointed position within the board. So we need to, those are the concerns that was of the board last week. Who's going to actually run the meeting tomorrow, how it's going to proceed, and what the roles and responsibilities are of each board member, and including myself. as the administrator. So I would open it up to you to let us know or give us your opinion and advice as to what we
Right.
should do.
Well, first of all, I'm quoting from memory right now, but 15-3.3 it gives you the power to make rules and enact procedures. So you do have what in legislative language is called rulemaking powers. So that was given to you by the mayor and council when they enacted this ordinance. So basically, we are free, in my legal opinion, we're free to make up whatever rules make sense to us, as long as they're not, they don't violate anyone's constitutional rights and they're fair and they're easy to understand, et cetera. We can basically proceed as we see fit. I would suggest, again, I don't represent any other rent boards from Verona, so you're gonna be hearing the word Verona a lot. But in Verona, we have a standing chair of the board. We don't elect a new chair every board meeting. We have a chairperson who serves from year to year, and at our organizational meeting at the beginning of the year, we reappoint him, but that he's the chair for everything, and he basically runs the meeting. Although if you have ever watched any of the videos of our meetings, he is closely assisted by the rent board secretary as to just moving through the agenda. Okay, his name is Mr. Hanley. Okay, Mr. Hanley, would you please start the meeting, and start with paragraph A, or start with item A, and then we have discussion about whatever is in A, and then if it requires a vote, then the secretary of the board says, okay, there's a motion pending, all in. Is anyone seconding it? And we use Robert's Rules of Order basically for our meetings. I'm sure everyone is pretty familiar with Robert's Rules of Order. And then so that's how I would suggest to you that you organize yourself for the purpose of conducting meetings. There should be a chair, and we should, my recommendation is, let's follow Robert's Rules of Order. No sense in reinventing the wheel as to how to make motions and conduct business and allow for discussion and all that sort of thing. Any thoughts about that, board members or Peter?
I have a question. So the chair, is that the same thing as a moderator?
You could call that the chair in our meetings effectively moderates the meeting, although assisted by the secretary as well. The secretary and the chair kind of work hand in hand to keep the meeting going.
So does the chair have any roles outside of the meeting, or is there sole responsibility on the board to conduct the meetings, to moderate the meetings?
The chair's responsibilities are effectively or largely to moderate the meetings. There really isn't any rent control board business. I'm not talking about what the administrator does. I'm talking about board business. There's very little board business that doesn't happen at a meeting. In fact, by law, it has to happen at a meeting. So to answer your question, Ms. Myers, the chair effectively moderates the meeting, runs the meeting.
Okay, and that goes for the for the hearings as well. I'm going to assume that same, whether it's a meeting or a hearing like the one that we're having tomorrow, it's the same person that's going to be moderating that.
In Verona, that's how we do it. Now, of course, if you choose to, as a board, you could go ahead and elect a new chair for every time we get together, and that person would then just serve the function. So that's for you as a board to decide. Do we want to have a standing chair that's going to serve, for, let's say, a term of 1 year, or are we going to we all going to vote at the beginning of each meeting as to who's going to be the chair? I would suggest pick a standing chair, and that way you don't have to spend the first 5 or 10 minutes of every meeting deciding who's going to moderate this one.
Mr. Graziano, just so you know that we do not have a chair right now. So for the purpose of tomorrow's meeting, I believe we're going to have to do that. And whether that becomes a permanent or not, I'll leave it up to the board for discussion today, but we definitely need to pick one to select one for tomorrow in order to run the meeting. So that would probably be a part of what we have to do. I can amend the agenda if we need to, or if it's just a process of starting, however that needs to be, let me know, and I can do that. I can accomplish that.
Peter, would we
I
be,
nominate, oh, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Melinda, sorry.
that's okay. Would we be able to send out like a straw poll vote via email to all the members? Do we want to do that at the meeting, or
No,
do we want to
we
do
do
that?
not want to do that because we don't have time for that. So thank you for the suggestion, but no.
Peter, I nominate you. You've
Yeah,
been
no.
so wonderful.
Thank you very much, but I decline.
Oh, seriously?
And Peter, just as a point of clarification, are you also a board member in addition to being the
I
administrator?
am not. I am not. I am.
So he's out for chairing it as well. It has to be one of you.
Got you. Geez, well,
Well, there's two people absent today, so.
And that's what happens on volunteer boards. Whoever's not there gets all the work.
I mean, if nobody else wants to step up to the plate, I'll do it. But my only concern, like, I have so many opinions about this particular application. I just feel like I would be like compromising my role as the moderator because of that. I've got so much input and commentary on this particular petition. So I don't know if I'm the appropriate person to be moderating tomorrow's hearing.
Can we hold off on kind of identifying the moderator until the actual meeting? So that we're doing that in the public as opposed to kind of trying to identify that now. I just don't want anyone to feel like it was prejudged. And now you're talking about your opinions on this case and we're in a public meeting, so that we don't have any appearance of prejudice. Can we just kind of do that tomorrow?
Yeah, I think that was my original question, Ms. Graziano. So if we do that tomorrow, do I need to amend the agenda for that? And doing a straw poll, I think the same thing might violate. That's outside. We have to stay within the scope of the Open Public Meeting Act. We start talking behind where we start putting things together. We need to have an agenda on that. So, and the fact that we're talking about the rules and regulations, I think, permits us to talk about who, getting the position tomorrow, but identifying who is not part of the scope, I think, of what our conversation is today. Does that seem correct?
Yeah, I mean, it really is a matter of the choice of the board. If you could certainly, to address your comment, Ms. Williams, you could certainly, since Peter noticed this meeting and it does say rent leveling board roles and responsibilities, hearing procedures and rules, we could in theory vote for tomorrow's chair right here and now, because this is a public meeting, it's been noticed and it's on the agenda. Or alternatively, if we want to do it tomorrow, Peter would have to amend the agenda to add this item in, appointment of or election of chair of this meeting or permanent chair, whatever it might be.
Okay, either way is fine. I just don't want there to be any appearance of prejudice as we're not discussing the actual case for tomorrow.
Oh, we're not discussing the case. We're just talking about who's
Right.
going to sit in the middle,
Yeah.
basically.
Okay.
Can you elaborate on that, Councilwoman? I'm not understanding why there might be an appearance of prejudice if we vote on a chair right now.
I'm not suggesting that there would be, I'm just saying your comment. You have lots of opinions. You didn't want to. I just think those comments can certainly, if someone heard them and they're the actual panelists, they might feel, a little, that was a little pre-opinionated and their comments haven't been heard yet.
Interesting.
I think Ms. Myers and Ms. Williams, if Ms. Myers were to serve as chair, I'm not talking about the merits of tomorrow's case, but she could certainly, if she were serving as the chair of tomorrow's meeting, she could certainly ask questions just like any other board member. She doesn't give up her rights and responsibilities as a board member merely by serving as chair. She's just another board member for the purpose of the hearing.
No, that I understand. I'm clear on that. So, I mean, that's just how we would function, but I'm clear on that. That's fine. If we want to identify that person now, that's fine. I just want to make sure if that's what we're doing, you know, it's noticed properly, and apparently it is.
Is there anyone willing to chair tomorrow's hearing?
I will do it.
Awesome. Thank you.
So is there a motion?
We have to, yeah, so we have to make a motion. So I could do that.
Have a quorum?
There's a motion. We need to make a motion. Somebody needs to make a motion to appoint a chair for tomorrow's meeting. So could somebody please make a motion so I can put it to the record?
Sorry, Peter, do we have a quorum now?
Yes, we do.
Okay, okay. I'll make the motion. I'll make the motion for, to recommend Deidre for acting chair for tomorrow's February 10th meeting.
It's actually a motion to make the chair for the meeting, not active. It would be a motion
Okay.
to make the chair. So it's a motion to make the chair for tomorrow's meeting, right?
Yes,
But not for future. That's what my question is, right?
yes.
Okay, so there's a motion. I need a second.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Actually, I guess I got, let me go say,
Yeah, you have to call the roll.
I have to call roll. I'm sorry. All right, Ms. Myers?
Yes, aye.
Let me get my list back up here. I'm sorry. I have, good thing I have multiple screen. All right, Ms. Gabor Michael?
Yes.
Ms. Huerta?
Yes.
Ms. Saunders?
Yes.
Okay. The ayes carry it. Congratulations.
We
I'll
shall
be-
see.
I'll be sending you
Congratulations,
your
I
gavel in the mail. So, okay, so that's settled for tomorrow. Okay, thank you. Mr. Graziano, back to you.
Yes, so ladies and gentlemen, singular, the next issue which I recommend that we discuss is how to proceed with tomorrow's hearing. We in Verona, we tended to use, rather than invent our own rules and procedures, we tended to rely on the New Jersey rules of court and the New Jersey rules of evidence, because there are already two very well established sets of rules and procedures out there. And just like it says in both of those rules, the rules can be relaxed, you know, or waived in the interests of justice. So that they served us very well for just how to proceed. In other words, there's an applicant, like tomorrow's applicant, and he or she puts forth a petition, and if there are objectors, then you know they have the right to put forth a counter petition, or what we in regular civil procedure would call an answer. And then when we have the hearing, following the court rules, the applicant would go first and present his case, and the objectors then would have the right to cross-examine any witnesses that the applicant put forth. And then once the applicant is done presenting his or her case, then we move to the objectors, and they put forth evidence that the applicant has the right to cross-examine, you know, their witnesses, et cetera. And then after both parties have presented their cases, we have a discussion about the case, of course, on the record, since it's an open public meeting, and we render a decision. Or in rare cases, we said, okay, we've had our discussion and we need more time to think about this, so we'll continue our discussions at the next meeting, and then we render our decision at the next meeting. That rarely happened, though. We're usually able to wrap it up in one hearing in one night.
So Ms. Poe, should we document that for you? Like, is there, like, should we memorialize that in like a written document for Ms. Poe to adhere to tomorrow, or?
You mean for how we should proceed?
Yeah, the procedure for tomorrow.
I don't know if necessarily that we need an outline. It would look a lot like a court case. You know, the plaintiff or applicant goes first, presents, and you know, we, myself, Peter and I can chime in to say to the applicant hypothetically, okay, do you have any witnesses, or are you going to testify on your own behalf? And then, you know, he would say, yes, I have, you know, an accountant or someone else who is going to testify, et cetera. And, you know, we can kind of guide the parties as well. I don't know that we need to hand Ms. Poe the New Jersey court rule book here and expect her to memorize it by tomorrow morning or tomorrow night.
Let's do
Thank
that.
goodness.
Yeah, we can, you know, we don't, the people presenting their cases don't have to be experts in New Jersey civil procedure or New Jersey evidence law, nor do we. You know, we can kind of guide things along as we go through. It's quite informal. I mean, it's not as dramatic or majestic as it might sound with me referring to it.
Okay.
Mr. Graziano, are your court hearings or your rent leveling board hearings on Zoom anywhere on your website?
I believe they are. You could check with our rent board secretary. That's actually, I don't really have too much input into the creation or the maintenance of the website.
Yeah, I think that, and Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I sent over a link to one of Verona's meetings, rent leveling board meetings, like sometime last year. I think that's, I know.
Yeah, I'm checking their website right now to see if there's anything on there. If there is, I'll send a link.
I know you said Newark. I remember seeing Newark, watching something from Newark. I don't remember seing something from Verona.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
gonna take a
think
look.
it was
see.
Verona. I'm not sure though, but it was a while ago. I'll check. I can
I will
resend it
definitely
if I
watch it.
find it.
I will definitely.
Actually,
watch
there is I believe there is a link. Let me just see real quick. Oh,
I believe there
there is a link. I'm gonna send the link out to everybody right now.
one from Newark and one from Verona.
Excellent.
Yeah, on May the 10th. I'll send it to everybody again.
Send.
May the 10th last year, I sent it.
I believe you also sent us a couple of rent ordinances from Newark, and I think just Newark. I'm not sure if I saw it from you for other towns.
What are everyone's thoughts regarding following New Jersey court rules and following New Jersey evidence rules? Anyone have any opinion on that? I see a thumbs up from Ms. Myers. Okay.
I have no experience in or with it.
Well, I can help you along with that, Ms. Poe.
Okay, thank you.
I just sent the YouTube link that was on Verona's website to everybody, so you should be receiving that.
So if then I would recommend then if no one else has any further questions or any strong objection to using the New Jersey court rules and the New Jersey rules of evidence, then I suggest we make a motion to use those two bodies of rules as our procedural and evidential rules for tomorrow's hearing, and with the understanding that they can be relaxed in the interest of justice, which is straight out of Rule 1:1 of the New Jersey Court Rules.
I'll make the motion. I think you still did. Well, I can't hear you, Esmeralda. I can't hear you. I don't know if anyone else can hear you.
Asma, you're on mute right now.
She's not muted, but I can't hear her.
Now?
Now I can hear you.
I didn't both made the motion at the same time, so then I said I second.
Okay.
So we have a second on the motion to adopt the New Jersey, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Graziano, this is a motion for the board to adopt the New Jersey rules and regulations in,
Yes.
in court proceedings, correct?
Yes,
The New Jersey
Adopt
rules,
the two bodies of rule, New
Right.
Jersey rules of court and New Jersey rules of evidence.
that's correct, Ms. Huerta.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second. And we need to have a discussion. Is there any discussion? Okay, no, motion is closed. We'll take a,
Question? I'm sorry. Do we need to receive like a copy or something of that, or should we review a bit of it, or?
I can send you copies of both of them, or I can send you links to websites that have these rules.
Thank you.
yeah, if you want to send it to me, Mr. Graziano, I'll forward it out to everybody since I have the direct links to everybody. You can send it to me and I'll send them.
Okay,
Okay. Okay, so there was a motion on the floor. There was a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, we'll take a roll. Okay, Mr. Campana's, Ms. Huerta,
Yes.
Ms. Myers,
Yes,
Ms. Paul Saunders.
She was muted,
She's
Okay.
muted.
nodded.
Not, it's okay. I can't see it right now. I'm sorry. Ms. Gabriel, Michael?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Next order of business. Mr. Graziano?
I think we, according to the agenda you sent out, Peter, I think that's it for what we have to, unless there are subcommittee reports, correct? Or, I mean, we went right to the last bullet point on the agenda.
That was under this, that was actually under the subcommittee. I mean, just so
Okay.
you know, we do have 3 committees. I don't know if you're aware of that. We have a Rules and Regulations Committee. We had a Budget Committee, and we have I'm sorry, somebody help me out with the third one.
Ordinance.
The ordinance, that's right, the Ordinance Committee, to discuss the ordinance. So those are the 3 committees that were discussed 2 meetings ago to come forward, for the board to consider moving forward. So, and the charge was from last year from the council president at the time to have this board make those presentations back to the board, recommendations as to how this board should operate and to become more in compliance with our ordinance, our current ordinance. So, so I don't have anything more with that. Does anybody else have any other discussions that they want to talk that's relevant to the topics at hand for today's meeting? Okay. All right, well, seeing none, I think that's really, well, you're muted.
sorry about that. Maybe it's a good idea to put up like the outline of how the meeting is gonna play itself out so that the public can see, ahead of time for transparency purposes. I don't know.
There is no outline.
But
There's an agenda. The agenda is the agenda, and we're not gonna, so I haven't created any outline. I don't know if there has been ever any outline. I mean, based on what we just discussed here before about the rules, I think that's pretty much how we're going to go. So,
So
but
then
there is
maybe
no,
maybe we can preface the hearing by saying this is how it's going to play itself out. We're going to start by, giving the petitioner the floor, then we're going to go to the objectors, but that sort of thing. It's just a thought.
and that would fall to the chair. I'm just, tomorrow's meeting, I will, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Graziano, but I believe that goes to the chair because the chair runs the meeting. I'm just going to preface the Open Public Meeting Act and that, they'll have a good meeting and so on and so forth. And then the chair would take over from there. And then the chair can actually identify how the process is going to be. But I've never seen any outline in any of the other rent leveling boards that they have. It's just a petitioner goes in front of the board and makes their application. And if there's any members of the public who, but they should be noticed, or the members of the property, if they want to come in, then we have to incorporate Megan to make sure that those members of the public can be, ask their questions at the time, whenever the chair permits it.
And Ms. Poe, don't worry about, as I said, about having to memorize all the rules and procedures by 6 p.m. tomorrow. I mean, a very typical way in which the meeting proceeds is when we proceed, when we reach the point in the agenda where we're going to do a hearing, again, not talking about tomorrow's hearing, just talking about hearings in general. I would say to you, oh, okay, Ms. Saunders, we can begin the hearing. I suggest that you instruct the petitioner to give an opening statement, just a brief summary of his case or her case. And you would say, okay, thanks, Mr. Graziano. Now, Mr. Petitioner or Ms. Petitioner, please give us just a brief statement of what your case is about. In other words, I can sort of lead you along.
Fabulous.
Okay, so, and make recommendations, but it is, as I think it was Ms. Myers who just observed, it has to be you as chair, though, who says, okay, do this, and now, okay, and then we're going to do that, and then we're going to do the next thing.
Understood. I'll just follow. I will watch closely along. I'm going to definitely watch some previous rent leveling board hearings. Like you said, the links were coming our way this morning. I will just observe them closely. I'll read over the rules and we'll take it from there. That's all I can do.
The last contested hearing that we had in Verona, where there was what would be the equivalent of a plaintiff and a defendant, was probably right before the pandemic in the fall of 2019. It was the Verona Tenants Association versus Fieldstone Properties. And that's probably the closest analog to what you're going to see, because if you watch any other meetings, it's just us conducting business, like reviewing and approving of the rent rolls, or authorizing me. Let's say there were 100 landlords that were supposed to submit rent rolls, and 15 of them haven't yet. By the deadline, then the board would authorize me, Mr. Graziano, please write delinquency letters to these people. Give them 30 days to comply. If they don't comply within 30 days, then the penalty is going to be X. A fine of X.
Would it be possible to be sent that specific link, that case where you're with Fieldstone and the...
If it's up on the if it's up on the website, yes, we could certainly get it. If not, I guess I would have to check with the rent board secretary or rent board administrator. I mean, it was recorded, so it's out there.
Okay. Okay.
Mr. Graziano, an administrative question. Just thinking about this. I sent to the board a copy of the final agenda and the applicant's documents. For the sake of the meeting, are the applicant's documents permitted to be displayed as like an agenda, as we saw Megan did before for us? I send it to her since she's the administrator of the Zoom. Does that evidence get posted, or do we make sure that stays just to the board? How does that work? The evidence, the exhibits that are submitted are all part of the public record, just like they are in a court case. Okay, so if a board member does request for that to be shown, then Megan can place that up on the screen if need be. Yes, correct. I mean, I would just have the caveat in case there's any if there's any private information, like somebody's social security number is in there somehow, or yeah, I don't believe I have any of that stuff. I mean, maybe if there may be phone numbers, I'll have to do that. I could redact that stuff for her. But, if you're in fact, the court rules require personal identifiers and personal information to be redacted from any document that's filed in court. Right, I'll review that. I'll review that today just to make sure that it is correct for the purpose of Megan placing it up on the board, so that this way, if it does get displayed, I just wanted to clarify that prior to. So.
And can I make a request, Mr. Graziano? Can we preface the meeting by making sure that everyone who's a party to the hearing understands that they cannot offer confidential personal identifiers in this matter, just and to make sure that they understand that the hearing is going to be conducted like a court proceeding. Because God
Yes.
forbid, like somebody like announces a social security number or driver's license number on the record, and then we're
Yes.
somehow, yeah.
We could, I could again direct Ms. Poe. Ms. Poe, I recommend that you make a statement to the applicant not to disclose any private information, for example, social security number, driver's license number, et cetera. I mean, the addresses of people are actually, part of, who lives in what apartment is already a public record on the rent rolls, right? So we don't have to worry about people's addresses. I don't think in this context, people's addresses are a private thing, because we're talking about particular apartments that are located in particular buildings in the township.
I had a question. So is the hearing is public? Will there be public comment?
At the end, there will be, yes. And
And
there
normal-
also, I'm sorry, Ms. Huerta, sorry to cut you off, but we have to make a distinction procedurally between people who are there to object to the application versus public comment. If there are actual objectors, then they need to make themselves known, because they have the right to participate in the proceeding as a party, as opposed to somebody who just wants to make a public comment at the conclusion of a meeting during the public comment section.
I understood. Thank you. And do we require commenters at the end to, similar to like town council meetings, announce their address? And name
Yes,
for the record?
we do in Verona. They should give their full name and address for the record.
Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody else have, or does anybody have any other questions for Mr. Graziano or for me at this time regarding this meeting? Okay, seeing none. Oh, I'm sorry, seeing none. I guess we entertain a motion to adjourn. Prior to, please be reminded to any member of the public. I don't know if there's anybody here on there right now, but if they do have any questions regarding the rent leveling board, they can contact me at 973-325-4107, or they can email me at psmeraldo, SMERALDO @westorange.org, and I will kindly answer that as quickly as I possibly can. So with that, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Second,
I'll second it.
I think this one we could do all those in favor.
Aye.
All right, see you guys tomorrow night. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Everybody have a great day. Talk
You
soon.
also.
Bye.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful day.
Bye now.